From sloppy writing to cheap bosses to the occasional slowdown, there are a lot of things that I'll put up with when it comes to enjoying a shoot 'em up. The one thing that I won't put up with? Boredom. That brings me to today's review, a new side-scrolling shooter that is a lot more interested in coin collecting than blowing up alien spaceships. I'm talking about Galaxy Warfighter by Qplaze, a longtime mobile game developer who is just now making their console debut. And while that may be an exciting milestone, I guarantee that it's the only thing exciting about this side-scrolling snooze fest. Don't go into Galaxy Warfighter looking for a deep story, because there isn't one. With no setup or characters, we're forced to assume that alien invaders are threatening Earth and there's only one person that can stop them with some sort of experimental spacecraft or something. The goal is to fly through 100 increasingly challenging stages in hopes of collecting coins and upgrading your ship. Now, when I say levels, what I actually mean are waves. You fight waves of bad guys in front of random backgrounds. That's it. Every level plays out exactly the same way. You shoot down a certain amount of bad guys and then take on one of the 4 bosses. Once you've done that, it's back to the upgrade shop where you'll buy more drones, heavier firepower, and special abilities that'll stop time and shoot out a powerful shockwave. So, even though this is a console game, the emphasis on coins and upgrading makes it feel a lot like it came out of the mobile world. You also see that in the gameplay, which is so simple that it doesn't even make you push a button to shoot. It's also slow and forgiving in a way that most console shooters aren't, almost as if it was made for a touchscreen or some other less than ideal controller. All that is curious, but the real problem is the repetition. And nowhere is that more obvious than the boss battles. I just want to reiterate that there are only 4 different bosses for a game with 100 stages. And it's not like you're gonna see a boss every 5 or 10 levels, because there's a big battle at the end of literally every stage. Hell, sometimes you'll run into the same boss 2 or 3 times in a row. And while they do gradually get tougher as the levels stack up, you fight them the same way every single time. The monotony is a real problem here. Now, it doesn't help that Galaxy Warfighter is one of the easiest shoot-em-ups that has come out in a long while. I found that I didn't need to upgrade my ship until about a quarter of the way through, and even then, both the enemies and the bosses were incredibly easy to gun down. The difficulty doesn't really ramp up until the back half of the game, but by that point you'll have more than enough health, drones, shields, and firepower to survive pretty much anything. The challenge doesn't come in the waves of bad guys, but rather you staying interested long enough to see the ending. On the bright side, I do like the look of the game. Galaxy Warfighter has a number of gorgeous backgrounds, including a few with beautiful shots of pixelated planets. I also really like the little touches that go along with stopping time and using that shockwave attack. And I suppose it's also worth mentioning that I didn't run into any sloppy writing, cheap bosses, or slowdowns, so at least it has that going for it. Unfortunately, even if we count all of those as positives, we're still left with a long, monotonous, and ultimately pointless exercise in repetition that never quite figures out what makes the genre so much fun. Galaxy Warfighter makes the unforgivable sin of being a boring shoot-'em-up. With far too many stages and only a few bosses, this is a game that beats you over the head with relentless repetition and a difficulty that is rarely challenging. Despite being the developer's first console game, this side-scrolling shooter still feels like it belongs on a mobile device. Unless you really like collecting coins and monotony, Galaxy Warfighter is hard to recommend. Hey, thanks for watching our review. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we post new reviews and features almost every day. Now here's the question I have for you. What is the most boring game you've ever played? Go ahead and hit me with those hot takes, I can take it. In the meantime, I'm hard at work on a bunch of new reviews, including Hyper Parasite, Can Androids Pray Blue, and Foregone. A couple of those games are pretty cool, so you'll definitely want to tune in for those. In the meantime, I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.